Hello and welcome to another episode of Voices of the Vic podcast with myself, Mike Duffy, and today I'm joined by Cam Smart. And we're here, it's a bit of a bonus pod really, because we weren't really going to do one for the first round of the Carabao Cup, seeming as though, we usually get knocked out by a lower league side. But we're here to talk about a 5-0 win over MK Dons at Vicarage Road in the first round of the Carabao Cup. As I say, I'm joined by Cam, who was there yesterday, and you were there on Saturday as well, but we've already had that podcast. First things first, though, Cam, how you doing? You all good?
Yeah, I'm good. Just finished a grueling day of work. And yeah, now I'm back here and absolutely buzzing with Watford start to the season. Not only do we get a win in such dramatic fashion on Saturday, we follow it up with an unfathomable 5-0 win against a team that no one expected us to beat. Whenever we play these League Two, League One teams, it's a write-off, and that's the same as going to the Den as well. So two unexpected wins for Watford already, and yeah, I am absolutely buzzing about that. But yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, no, I completely echo what you just said. I mean, if you'd have said, especially how our predictions podcast went and our thoughts over the course of the season, if you'd have said to me, oh, by the way, you think Watford are going to have a poor season, but they're actually going to score 8 goals in the first 2 games, I'd have told you which way to, sod off in. Let's just say that. So, yeah, it's magnificent, but I'm all good. I'm feeling normal again after my stag do weekend. It was quite an experience. We found a bar in Blackpool actually that put the Watford game on for us. So massive shout out to the Legends Bar on the Promenade. If you ever go to Blackpool and you wanted to watch a game, bit of a niche subject, I know, but those guys will sort you out. There was the Leeds game was on, the other game, and that looked quite entertaining as well. So yeah, good. I've entered a competition to win tickets for this Saturday. So if I win them, I'll be going to the first home game of the season. If not, I'll be watching it from the comfort of my own home. So, but yeah, let's delve straight into it, shall we? 5-0 win over MK Dons. Now, because it was a cup, we were expecting wholesale changes, and everybody thought, right, it's Carabao Cup. We always lose this. And I think there was a stat put out on BBC, and they said that the last time we faced a League Two side in this competition at home was in 2012, the season the Potsos took over. We played Bradford, and Bradford actually went on to go all the way to the final that year, and they lost 5-0 in the final to Swansea. But I was at that game, and I think we lost 1-0 or 2-1. I can't remember which way round it was. So the record books weren't in our favour, let's just say that. And the starting 11, there are a few changes. I'll get your thoughts on it in a sec. I'll just run through it, Cam. So it was the usual formation. So it was Bond in goal, a second debut for Jonathan Bond. A back three of Cyril at Pollock. Now, here's a weird thing. James Morris was part of that back three. Ken was over on the left. Andrews was over on the right as the wing backs. The 2 midfielders were Loser and Tom Delibashiru, so a first start for Loser this season. And then just ahead of them in the 2-10 positions was Rocco Vata, again, another debut. Tom Ince playing behind Rajovic, who was the lone striker. First things first, Cam, what were your thoughts when that team news come out?
Yeah, I was quite happy with it. I wanted to see, I think the way you approach a game like this after the years we've had of struggling with, the first team that's being put out, and then seeing them struggle against lower league opposition. I think the way you've got to approach it is play the players that are hungry, that have something to prove. And that's what you had all over the pitch, really. We were forced to play the likes of Tom Delibashiru, Matty Pollock and Sear Outer, who are going to be in the team no matter what you'd think. But players like Imran Loser, Tom Ince, Rocco Vata, Rajovic as well, and obviously Ken and Morris have all got something to prove this season. They've got a starting place to fight for. And yeah, I think that's exactly how you should approach a game like this. Play the players that need to show us what they can do. And I thought that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, and one of the sticking points for me was seeing Morris deployed as one of the three centre backs. Now, I think you heard a murmur that that might be the case before the game, and we were like, surely that's not right. But do you know what? I actually think he had a decent game. What did you think? Firstly, what did you think when you saw it? Was you thinking, Christ, there's typo here? There's got to be. And what did you think of Morris in that back three?
Well, I thought, right, that is a bit weird. And I think it says a lot about Antonio Tikvic, that he's not being picked there. So that's a little bit of a worry. But yeah, James Morris, I thought, you know what? It sort of makes a little bit of sense in that he's not quick enough and he's not good enough going forwards to be a left back. But he can position himself well and he can defend to an extent. So you can sort of see why he might be a good option there. And actually, I'm looking at that left centre back position. Our two options there. I mean, we played Matty Pollock there at the weekend, and that's not ideal given that he's a right footer. So our two left-footed options there are Antonio Tikvic, who doesn't seem to be fancied, and Keiki Almeida, who Tom Cleverley has already said isn't going to feature too heavily this season or in the short-term future. He's more of a long-term project. So I don't really anticipate either of those playing. And I feel like we are going to be forced to play a right footer there this season. But if James Morris wants to put his name in the hat and play well there, then I don't see why he can't be an option. And something I really liked about Morris there all night, he had a really good link up with Ken Sema. There were, I think, 3 or 4 times he played that sort of that straight ball over the top of their right back for Ken to run onto, and it just worked so well, and it got Ken into the positions that we know Ken loves to be in. So yeah, there was certainly an understanding there, and I like what I saw. I mean, the worry is you put him against someone more physical, and you probably expect him to get bullied a little bit. But yeah, I thought last night he did absolutely nothing wrong.
Yeah, and listen, with all due respect to the opposition last night, we do have to remember that it is League Two opposition, and we cannot get carried away. But as you say, it's good to see that we potentially have another option in that left centre back role, because, as you say, we're thin on the ground as it is, and we're potentially, losing another centre back, which the news broke last night. We don't know how true it is, but for those that haven't seen it, according to a source on Twitter, there has been a fee agreed for Wesley Hoot with Saudi side, Al Shabab, I think they're called. No idea of the figure involved. Can't imagine it will be any more than 2-3 million. But if that is led to be believed, then we're going to be even lighter in that defence sort of area. It's interesting you say that about KK Almeida, because I didn't know that Clevs has actually said that. I saw when he was announced that he was eligible from the Stoke game, and I don't know why. I just thought, okay, that means that he's going to be involved. But Clevs did say there was another centre back or another defender who was very close to signing, and whether that be Liam Cooper, who's been somebody sort of linked with the club, or whether it's somebody else that completely froze us, we don't know. But yeah, it was good to see Morris there, and you're absolutely spot on. That understanding of that partnership down the sides, I often hark back to the times of Kiko Femenia and Ismail Assar, the understanding that they had with each other, and the constant overlapping and the balls in between. So it's nice to finally see that. But I think the main thing last night, Cam, was, we've seen the squads, we've seen the team moves. We thought, okay, that's strong enough to definitely go out and win this tie. But as we know with Watford, it's never that simple. I think last year against Stevenage in the same cup, we pretty much played. In fact, I think the only change that game, if I remember correctly, was Hamer, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
So, it was a strong team. In fact, the only change from the team that beat QPR 4-0. Now, granted, that QPR team at the time under Ainsworth weren't great, but still, you'd have hoped that momentum would have, got rolled into the next game. So the big worry for us was we need to make sure we start on the right foot, because that is the problem that we have in this competition. And I must say, I think the first 15 or so minutes, I thought, okay, the intent is there, but my worry was we weren't clinical enough. And I thought this is going to be one of them games where we're going to have to take the chances, because we might not be creating them. And if we don't take one soon enough, it's going to come back to bite us on the arse. Now, it took 24 minutes. And again, I don't know what on earth Tom has been teaching them on the training ground, but we bloody scored from a free kick last week with Georgie Chapter-Dadsey, something that we don't tend to do a lot here at Watford. And we also scored from a set piece. And then 24 minutes on the clock, Tom Ince goes over on that left-hand side, takes a corner, and Matty Pollock peels off his man, Dean Lewington, and he heads it home for what was his first Watford goal, which, to be honest, I thought he'd already scored for us. I don't know who against or when it was, but I just thought he'd scored in like a cup or something. But Pollock's first goal, let's talk a little bit about Pollock, Cam, because he come out of the Millwall game with a lot of high praise, and rightly so. And for me last night, he was given the captain armband. And for me last night, he only strengthened his case to be in that starting 11, because some of those balls, Capoue-esque, I must say. The balls over the top, the vision, the balls having to pull it off, I thought was superb. And we got a lot of joy with that ball sometimes when he was spraying it out left, spraying it out wide. But I thought another solid night for Matty Pollock.
Yeah, and you don't normally really see him associated with the passing ability like that. But we saw it throughout all of pre-season, and we saw it against Millwall, and then we saw it again last night. He's got such a clean technique. He finds players with ease, and there are a number of times he played a ball in behind that Ince or Vata or even Rajovic were able to latch onto. He had a good link up with Ryan Andrews down the right hand side as well. A lot of good passes into him. I was very surprised that Matty Pollock played, just because of the head injury that he's sustained against Millwall. I thought he'd more than likely get the night off, but he didn't look fazed by it at all. He looked absolutely fantastic again, and arguably, I know Ince got a hat trick, but arguably Matty Pollock was the best player on the pitch. He was just phenomenal. And one thing about him being captain, one thing I don't see mentioned a lot. I don't know if many people went to the pre-season games, particularly the one at Gillingham, where you're right next to the pitch and you can hear everything that's going on. Far and away, the most vocal player on that pitch is Matty Pollock. He just does not stop shouting, does not stop organising everyone, and it's exactly what you want in a captain. And I feel like if we weren't blessed with so many leaders, I mean, we don't even know who our captain is right now. There's three people who, seem to be trading the armband in Bachmann, Sissoko, and Hoot. It could be any of them. But if those three weren't such good leaders, Matty Pollock would make a fine captain, I think.
Yeah, well, this is it, Cam. I was actually going to ask you before you brought up that last point. Do you think that we should maybe look at giving him? I know Clev's, I don't know whether he's come out and said in that interview the other day whether Bachmann's is off the field captain and then someone else is on the field like Ishmael did when the armband switched over. But would you now be tempted to be like, right, okay, well, Pollock, here you go, mate, two brilliant starts, one with an armband, one without? Or would you just be tempted because of the sort of experience of Sissoko? Let's count Wes out of the equation for now, just in case those rumours are true. Would you stick with Sissoko because of his experience, or would you be tempted to just give it Pollock for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think I would stick with Musa. As you say, his experience, it's going to be invaluable to us, isn't it? And he does look like an absolute general in midfield. He just organises everything, breaks up play, does everything sort of you'd associate with a captain. And he's also got that experience of obviously captaining Watford before. I think that's all going for him. But I mean, Musa's what, 34? He's not going to be our captain for long, is he?
He's 35 on Friday.
Right. Happy birthday in advance, Musa. Yeah, so he's not going to be our captain for too long, is he? And that's where, you know, Matty Pollock, he'll be a much more seasoned, more experienced player by then, and he'll absolutely be captain material if he's still at Watford.
Well, yeah, and let's be honest, Cam, it's not a bad problem to have, is it?
No,
Sort of wondering who's going to be your captain, because there's multiple options.
You're looking at sort of, I mean, even as far back as the sort of Rob Edwards Bilic season, this team was heavily criticised for not having any leaders in it. The recruitment needed to bring in some leaders, and fair play, they've done exactly that. I mean, last season we had a whole leadership team, didn't we? And there was obviously Jake Livermore there, then Ben Hamer allegedly a leader, and now you've brought in Musa Sissoko. Allegedly, you know, could be Liam Cooper coming in. There's another great leader. So there's there's a lot of leadership there, and it's nice to see that problem has been addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And Flossie, my cat, also agrees, as she's just jumped up and scared the absolute shit out of me. So if anyone's watching that, and I almost jumped through the screen there. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, Cam. I think leaders is something we've struggled. I'll be honest. I think even as far back as when Troy left. Now, granted, that wasn't long after the Edwards Bilic season, because technically he left whilst we were that season that we were in the Prem for one season before getting relegated. So, but I think that is something that we've struggled with. So now to have multiple options is brilliant. It's not a bad problem to have. But going back to the game, obviously Pollock opened the scoring to make it 1-0, 24 minutes. And it was, I thought, okay, this is good. I thought we were really knocking it round with confidence. And do you know what, Cam? And I put this tweet out on my Twitter last night, and I was thinking, the result is brilliant and all that. And I thought, 1-0 against MK Dons, so it should be, because we're 2 divisions above them. But the main takeaway was, we don't do this in the Cup against lower league teams. Now, I don't know whether it's because it's the Carabao Cup, because, you know, the FA Cup, we've had some good runs over the last few seasons, but it was so nice to see Watford turn up and look like they care and still give everything, even in the 89th minute. Now, granted, I'm skipping a little bit, but when we went 1-0 up, I thought, right, because if we might be playing well, but if we have a sort of lapse of concentration and they get another goal and they're in, I thought if MK Dons score whilst it's still close, I thought that's it. It's going to be, you know, down memory lane again, losing to a lower league opposition like we have Gillingham, Stevenage in recent years. But on the stroke of half time, 1 minute added on, Tom Ince made it 2-0. Now, Tom Ince had a brilliant chance not long before that, and I thought it's going to be one of them nights. I think their keeper rushed out. Ince tried to lob him, and if that was Ince playing against Watford, you could have bet your bottom dollar that would have gone in. But it's almost like typical, you know, he's playing for Watford. He's tried to lift it over the goalkeeper and it's gone wide. But he finally got his chance. And I think actually, Cam, if memory serves me correct, wasn't the original ball to Andrews one of those balls over the top from Pollock? He found him in acres of space over on the right. Andrews then came down his flank, crossed it across the face of goal, and there was Ince for a nice routine tap-in. But how important was it to get that second goal, and especially on the stroke of half-time? Because, like I said, you know, we might have taken the lead in games before against lower league opposition, but it was making sure that we built on it and the performance was still there, wasn't it?
Yeah, first of all, I'll correct you that it was Imran Loser that played the ball over for Ryan Andrews. And yeah, that was a fantastic ball. And that was Ryan Andrews just getting the better of his 40-year-old fullback, which is something that, you know, that had to be an area that we really looked to exploit with the pace of Andrews. And one thing about Ryan Andrews, I accuse him of a lot, is that he just doesn't get his man enough. And I felt that was more or less the same last night. There weren't many, well, I don't think there were any times he really took the ball and really, squared himself up with Dean Lewington. Just wasn't too positive on it, but he did get beyond him off the ball a lot, and balls from Matty Pollock and Imran Loser set him away a number of times, and he was a threat for us. So that was good to see. But yeah, that goal came at a stage where we were really peppering the MK Dons goal. It was a miracle that we were only 1-0 up at that point. And you're thinking, this is going to come back to bite us. They're not going to be any worse second half. How are we not more than 1 goal up? And then, lo and behold, Ryan Andrews just gets away, plays in Tom Ince, and easy as you like. Tom Ince in that number 10 role, I think we need to talk about. Because I thought I came out of the first half thinking Tom Ince has been lively, but he's not really showing us the end product here, is he? He could have had his hat trick wrapped up by half time with the chances he had. There was one Rajvic set up for him, and there was that dink that he missed. But it's nice to see that he's going to be picking up all of these positions in that role. He's going to be in a lot of dangerous areas, and we're not finding it difficult to find him. It's much the same as Track Vitadze at the weekend. Just seeing us able to, find our more influential players in space, in dangerous areas, and then just let them do their thing from there. And I've always said Tom Ince is an end product player. He's not going to be someone who, he's not going to dictate play. He's not going to create loads of chances out of nothing. He's not going to take players on. But if you find him in the right place, he's going to deliver. He's going to either put in a great ball or he's going to, have a good strike on him, because he's got the clean technique that you need from that role. And I think after the game Edo Kayembe had at the weekend, if you missed the Millwall review, I thought Kayembe was actually quite poor. Even though he got that goal, he just didn't really have much of an impact on the game. There's certainly minutes to be had for Tom Ince. That he's definitely thrown his name in the hat for that right number 10 role. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see him given a start at the weekend against Stoke.
Can you see my bloody notes or something? Because I was genuinely going to ask you that. I was going to say, right, but granted, he's scored a hat-trick and he's had a good game. Do you throw him in the mix against Stoke on Saturday against his old team? There's plenty of...
Well, who isn't his old team?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, that answers that then. But I completely agree. I think Ince, I'll be honest, when we brought him in, I thought it was quite a good bit of business because of the low fee that we paid for him. And, his experience in the league, and you always need experience. And to be honest, if anything, it would have stopped him signing for someone else and then coming and absolutely battering us for once, because he always scores against Watford. And to be honest, every opposition podcast we speak to always say, "Oh, you've not got Tom Ince, have you?" He always scores against us. So, he's one of the most feared men, or certainly has been over the years in the Championship. So I felt a little bit bad for him that he come in and it didn't quite work under Val, but I think pre-season showed that Clevs is hopefully going to offer him more minutes. And me personally, I would start him for Kayembe and put him alongside Shaq on Saturday. So yeah, it was very, very important to get that second goal and create a bit of a cushion. I thought my only gripe was sort of throughout the whole game really, but especially in the first half, is like you rightly pointed out, the speed of Andrews. The fact that he's up against a 40-year-old Dean Lewington, and they also had, next to Dean, they had a 17-year-old defender. I thought we didn't take advantage of that enough. I think if, you take the game to them and you're on the front foot and don't give them a moment's peace, I think we would have got a lot of joy out of that. And I think that's why Pollock was trying those long through balls, because Andrews had him every time in a foot race. And, the 17-year-old lad would have learnt a lot last night. And I think there was one stage in the second half, actually, where one of their midfielders had to give a foul away. And he absolutely laid into him. And I felt so bad for him. But that's football for you. But We went into the break 2-0, and I'll be honest, I think it was a pretty poor showing from MK, but from what I understand, reading the comments on Twitter, etc., it was very much a inexperienced side that started the game. And I tend to try and watch the pre-match sort of press conferences with opposition managers whenever we're playing them, just to sort of see how they're feeling, what team news is. And Mike Williamson did say that it was probably going to be a few changes made and wholesale changes. So I think, yeah, we could have been 3 or 4 up in that first half. Second half, I thought, okay, left me purring quite a bit. And I thought, okay, brilliant, 2-0 up. Let's get another one, completely kill it, because as we all know, 2-0 is a dangerous lead in football. Before the third goal, though, Cam, there was a few substitutions, so I'll just run through them. 61 minutes, there was a triple substitution. We saw Larouci come on for Ken and take that left wing-back role. Doumbia come on for Rajovic, and then Barr came on for Vata. Now, before we talk about those substitutions, firstly, they were key because of what went on straight after those subs. But I must say, and I don't know what the feeling was like in the ground, but MK Dons come out the traps flying in that second half, and I was really worried. I thought, if they get a goal here now and get their tails up, we could be falling back into the old habits of Watford losing to lower league opposition, because they had us for that first sort of 10, 15 minutes, didn't they, Cam?
Yeah, we looked like the Watford of old at that point.
Yeah.
And I think Tom Cleverley saw it as well, because he looked absolutely furious on the sideline. Just pointing out, a lack of effort from some players. There was a lot of ball watching, particularly Imran Loser let his man go beyond him a few times. And there was just a general lack of energy in the whole side. And I think it made perfect sense that you take off sort of Rajovic and Ken, who are two slower players, who aren't really going to give you as much of an outball. They're not going to work their way out of tight situations. And yeah, they're going to find it a lot harder to show for the ball. And you bring on two, younger, more energetic, more skillful players. Makes absolutely perfect sense. I think the Vata change was actually enforced. He looked like he was limping around after full time. So I think he might have taken a little knock there.
He did. He was from one of the corners in the first half, one of Ince's corners. He took quite a heavy whack by the looks of it.
Right, yeah.
And he was hobbling about. So.
Yeah, I didn't notice it at the time, but at full time he was limping around. So hopefully he's all right, because he looked phenomenal. I wanted him to stay on for the full 90, because I definitely fancied him for a goal.
Well, Cam, let's talk about that for a bit now, because as you say, we saw what he was like in pre-season, didn't we? And there was a lot of excitement around him. But I thought his energy, his pressing. There was one stage, I think it was the second half. We pressed their goalkeeper, because they're one of these teams that like to play out from the back. And I think the way that we're set up at the moment, that can play into our hands. I mean, Exhibit A, look at the Brentford's goal, the equaliser against Brentford. That come from them overplaying out the back. And if a goalkeeper was going to fuck up last night, sorry, but it was the MK Dons one, and believe me, he did. But there was this one stage in the second half where Vata chased him down he was in the right wing position, chased down the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper then played it out left, and he chased that ball from right wing to the goalkeeper to the left wing, and he almost got there. And I mean, that was just one example, but his energy, his desire to attack at every possible. I tell you what, it reminds me a little bit of. Now, I don't know whether I'll get laughed at for this comparison. I'm not saying the positions, but his desire to try and get the ball forward at every opportunity. Will Hughes did that an awful lot for Watford in that championship season. Now, granted, I know they're not the same position or anything, but just in terms of the style of play. But yeah, I mean, what did you make of Vata? Because that was his competitive debut. Are you expecting to see him a little bit more now? Do you think he was left out on Millwall because it was too soon? Do you think Tom Cleverley's even going to try and sort of slowly build up his minutes this season? Or do you think he'll, come the end of the season, he'll be a regular and he'll have a few goals to his name?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. I think Tom probably spared him a welcome at the Den just because we didn't really need him at the time. We were 2-0 up and cruising at one point. So, yeah, it makes sense to just spare him that and maybe knock his confidence a bit. But he looks like he's got absolutely everything you'd need in an attacking player. He's quick. He can turn really well. He can take players on. His first touch is electric.
Yeah,
Just at times, the balls that he recovered, just stretching for them, and then all of a sudden he's got them under complete control. It's amazing, and his ability to get shots off as well. That's going to be so handy for us. Just worming his way out of tight spaces and getting a strike away. It won't be long before he gets his first Watford goal because the way he can strike a ball, you can see that he's got it, can't you? And yeah, there's certainly going to be some great goals scored by him. He was unlucky not to get one last night, wasn't he?
yeah. Are you on about the one on the edge of the 18 where he wormed his way in and shot it, and that time the keeper held onto it? But are you on about that one?
There were multiple. He had a number of shots that came close. Um, about the only things the keeper saved all night, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe bad luck, but he looks like he can strike a ball fantastically. And yeah, I don't think it's. I think we've got a bit of a problem actually, just because Georgie Chakvetadze obviously has that left-sided attacking midfield role nailed down. Now, obviously, haven't seen much of Rocco Vatti yet, but he very much looks like he'd prefer that left side as well. So it's a question of can you find a way to play both of them? I think that might be a bit of a struggle, but there will certainly be plenty of minutes for Rocco Vata this season, and he can definitely make an impact.
Absolutely, and he strikes me very much as someone who's a confidence player. So as soon as that first goal goes in, fingers crossed, there'll be a fair few more to follow. But yeah, completely agree. Was very, very impressed with Vata. If you're watching this back on YouTube and you want to have your say on whatever player you want, drop it in the comments, leave a like as well, and hit subscribe. If you're listening back as a podcast, drop us a tweet. Let us know what you thought or who you thought your man of the match was. Easier said than done. I want to just touch quickly on Rajvic, Cam, because a lot was made of him on Twitter last night, and you especially, you replied to a tweet from Luorns, and you maybe had a different viewpoint to other people. Now, I'll be honest, I think he had a decent game last night. I think he was unlucky not to score, but I think we saw what we started to see a little bit of towards the back end of last season. His willingness and his desire to now drop a little bit deeper, win the ball, and then play the knock on and actually holding the ball up. And granted, all of those things should sort of already be in a professional footballer's sort of skill set, but that wasn't the case when Rajvic come through the door first at Vicarage Road. So I think there's definitely been an improvement. I think his movement is a lot better. His positional awareness is much better as well. But what were your thoughts on his overall performance last night? Because he played an hour. So, was it a good hour? Was it filled with some good, filled with some bad? What's your thoughts?
I thought he did well for the most part. I mean, particularly early on, he was running about a lot. He was actually running the channels quite well, and Matty Pollock found him a few times, and he was able to just help us get up the pitch. But my only issue, well, quite a big issue actually, is that after the first sort of 15, 20 minutes, he looked like he'd completely faded. There wasn't too much energy left in him at that point, and it is quite a concern when your striker can't really run too much after the first 20 minutes. And I guess that's why we're going to see more of him as an impact sub this season, where he can come on late on. Maybe defenders are more tired and he's going to find more space in the box, you'd hope. And I think that should certainly be his role. Now, I've seen people sort of jumping the gun on Rajvic a bit because he has looked better so far, but we've only really got a comparison of him compared to himself and Bio. He was much better compared to himself, his usual self, but compared to an actual, championship level striker, I think he's still way off it, if I'm being honest. And it might be harsh. He deserves credit for the improvement that we're seeing, but he still looks nowhere near it, in my opinion. And I think that was even further solidified when Dumbia and Barr came on, and they looked completely, at it. They looked like proper championship strikers. They have way more to their game, and to be honest, I would put them further ahead of him in the pecking order. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Let's talk about those two that you've just mentioned, because obviously, as I say, 61 minutes, triple change. Two of them, obviously, was Doumbia for Rajovic and Barr for Vata. Now, first things first, Barr has quite clearly spent the whole of pre-season in the gym, because, my Christ, he's stacked out like you would not believe it. Defenders must look at him and think, bollocks, we're in for it today. It took him 3 minutes to grab his first goal. Is it his first Watford goal? I don't want to say it's his first.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it will be, wouldn't it? Again, another player I thought had scored in a cup sometime. So again, another first Watford goal last night for a Watford player. But yeah, I mean, his speed and power is exactly what we need, I think. I'll be honest, I thought he might start the game against Millwall, given that it was always going to be quite a physical battle, and he seems perfect for that type of fit. But I must say as well, I was impressed by Doumbia and Larouci as well, in all honesty, all three of them. Doumbia, I don't think I saw him lose out on an aerial duel in the few minutes that he had. And Larouci, again, granted it's against lower league opposition, did exactly the opposite of what Jamal Lewis did, and that is get forwards every time that he could. As a wing-back, you have to do that. Now, he got back. Granted, there wasn't much attacking because we sustained that sort of period of pressure from MK Dons. We come out unscathed. I think Bondi made 1 or 2 saves, didn't really have much to do over the course of the match. And then as soon as that triple substitution was made, it was go time again for Watford, and we really switched on. And Clevs, and it's not often we say this about a Watford manager, got the substitutions absolutely spot on. But yeah, completely agree. I think Barr and Doumbia very, very impressed. Now, Cam, in terms of Saturday and just going forward in general, would you be tempted to maybe try Barr? Now, granted, we've just talked about 2 number 10s. You'd say you'd feel a bit more inclined to put Ince in ahead of Kayembe. Granted, we're not going to put Barr in instead of Chak Vadadze. Me personally, I wouldn't, because Chak's a brilliant player. Would you be tempted to start with Barr in the next few weeks, or even Doumbia? And what did you make of Doumbia as well?
Yeah. First of all, Doumbia, I thought he looked really inspiring for a first appearance as an 18-year-old. And it's easy to forget that he is 18 because he looked like an accomplished player. Just whenever he received the ball, he was always looking to turn with it. He was always looking to take players on. His passing is very clean. His technique looks brilliant. And I thought he was unlucky not to get played in a few times, and could well have walked away with a goal or 2. But yeah, really, really encouraging debut. And you know what? I would be tempted to throw in either Barr or Doumbia. I think it's more likely we see Barr start the game. Obviously, he played pre-season as a number 9, didn't he? But played last night in that left number 10 role. Now, I think if we put him back in the number 9 role, I think he'll probably do a better job than Bayo and Rajovic. Let's put it that way. But yeah, it's just nice to have someone up there with a bit of movement, a bit of physicality, sort of striker instincts. And actually, whenever you get Kwadwo Barr in that left-hand channel, he just seems to come to life. I mean, we saw it a number of times in pre-season where he ran at the fullback, he got in behind, and he burst into the box and just played a ball across. And that's exactly what his goal was, except this time he went for goal himself. Now, he definitely should have passed it to Ince. But with that guy in goal, I think I would have tried my luck there. I think anyone would have. But yeah, I'd probably go for Barr, to be honest. I think when you compare the 2 lads that came on to Bayo and Rajovic and what we've seen from them, it's night and day. They're miles better. You do have to caveat it with they were afforded the freedom of Vicarage Road, that they were given all kinds of room. And actually, there was one time Barr let the ball run across his body, and it seemed to travel half the width of the pitch, and he was still able to run onto it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really testing circumstances for them to show what they can do, but you can only play what's in front of you. And I thought they were absolutely fantastic. I thought they were both a lot better than Rivich, and I don't think Bayer would have done as well as them. So in my books, I'd put them ahead of them.
Yeah, well, exciting times because, two youngsters and hopefully many years to come at Vicarage Road. And obviously, Barr did that interview with the club saying that he wants to score more goals for Watford. So is that a little hint that he's going to be involved a fair bit this season? Who knows? I certainly wouldn't turn my nose up at it. And it's not a bad option to come off the bench either, to be honest, Cam. Worst case scenario. Just quickly, early thoughts on Larouci. Obviously, I spoke to Nick from the Sheffield United way. Almost said Wednesday. Then Christ, he'd kill me if he saw that. I spoke to him about Larouci, and he said that going forward, he was all right, but it was more his defensive sort of capabilities or lack of that he was worried about. But what were your early thoughts? Granted, we only saw 30 minutes of him. But yeah, he got an assist 3 minutes in.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I was going to say the very first thing he did was wriggle out of a tight spot, take on his man, and play a perfectly weighted ball in behind for Barr, which obviously then resulted in Barr's goal. So, yeah, that was really encouraging to see. It's obviously the exact opposite of what we'd expect from Jamal Lewis over the course of last season. So, yeah, really encouraging to see a left wing back that can actually get forwards and offer something. And he wasn't too involved in our attacks, but when we did get him involved, there was a willingness to get forward. He wanted to take on his man every time. He wasn't going backwards with it. He just wanted to, keep going forwards, and that's really encouraging to see. I didn't see obviously too much of him defensively just because MK were shit. That's something that we'll have to keep an eye out for in league games. But I do hope he's ready for the weekend, because I'd definitely chuck him right in there.
Yeah, that's interesting. You'd chuck him in. Ken not tickle your fancy last night? Not do enough to warrant a spot for you?
I thought Ken did well. I thought Ken did what he normally does. When you get him in that situation where he's 1v1 with his man, he's only doing one thing and somehow it works. And it did work fairly well last night. But to be honest, I think he's lost a yard, and that's saying something because he didn't really have many yards in him in the first place. But he looks a lot sort of slower, a lot less nimble now. And I think he's gonna maybe struggle to get a starting place this season. But I liked at Millwall when he came on. I liked his role then because, as I said on the last pod, he's the king of winning corners. He's going to help you see out games like that. And it's certainly a good option to have. But I don't view him as a starting player.
Yeah, no, I think that sums up Ken's role this season perfectly. And to be honest, it wouldn't have surprised me massively if he'd have maybe moved on this season, because his role is sort of diminishing every season, which is a shame because everyone loves Ken. Well, not everyone. I know a few people on Twitter who don't, but everyone loves Ken as a person, and he's been a great servant to the club. And that season in the Championship in lockdown, he was superb that season, and you've got some great memories. I mean, Swansea away last season. I drove 5 hours to get to Swansea, and we hadn't won in over a year. Was it over a year? I think it was.
Not over a year, no.
Was it not over a year?
It was, that was in October, and our last win was in 1st of Jan.
Right, yeah. It was a long time, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's interesting. I do wonder what will happen in that spot, whether Ngakia will keep his spot there this weekend now that Larouci's in and got some minutes under his belt. 3 minutes later, I think the subs just proved that it was a stroke of genius from Klebs, because Ince got in on the act once again with goal number 4. and then rounding off the night with a fifth in the 74th minute to make it 5-0 to Watford against MK Dons. I mean, that's going to help Ince his confidence massively, especially after being left out so much last season, Cam. Do you think he's maybe got that thought process of, I've got a point to prove here because I couldn't show what I could do last season, and I'll do it when I can this season, and hopefully that only works in our favour, right?
Yeah, it's exactly that. And I mean, I've already mentioned that the role suits him down to the ground in that number 10 position, where you're not relying on your pace, you're not relying on your creativity. You just need to get on the ball and show what you can do. And that's exactly what he did. And yeah, we've got healthy competition for places in that position. There's obviously, assuming Yasser Asprilla does end up leaving, he's competing with Edo Kayembe for minutes there. And he certainly doesn't want to be behind him in the pecking order based on what we saw last night. So I am expecting him to go straight back into the starting 11. And I think there really is a role for him to play this season.
Yeah, well, it's certainly going to be interesting. And like you say, it's nice for once that we've got competition for minutes in that team. I mean, you spoke to Tom about it last week, Tom Deli Bashiru, and he acknowledges the competition he's up against, and it's good that there's this healthy competition. And do you know what as well I noticed? And granted, there's been 2 wins, and it's not going to be all doom and gloom, but there does feel a lot of real togetherness within this squad. So that is what I do like. Now, as I say, Ince scored to make it 5-0, 74 minutes in. 2 minutes after that, there were 2 more subs. We saw the introduction of Tikvic making his competitive debut. He came on for Sierralta. And we also saw Ramirez Espan make his his competitive debut. He come on for Tom Deli Bashiru. Just quickly on those 2, Cam. I mean, Tikvic, I'll be honest, I thought he was going to start. Whether that was right, whether that would have been the right or wrong thing to do is a conversation for another day. But Tikvic can't help but get himself involved in these scuffles. And I mean, granted, he didn't have much to do last night, so he looked all right. But it's almost like he's trying to get himself into trouble because there was no need to start kicking off with players. But one thing I must admit, and Derek Payne said exactly this on Co-Coms last night, there was one of the comings together with, was it Nicholson up front? I can't remember the chap's name up front for MK Dons. But he had 2 comings together with him, and one of them, Loser, was right there, and Loser pushed him back. And Jeff Doyle said, I don't like to see that, especially when you're 5-0 up. But I think Derek Payne made a great point. I think sometimes it is good to see that they're willing to fight for each other and not like there's that fight and desire in the team. So that's good. But I mean, Tikvic, is there much to say on him? Was there anything in particular you thought about him last night? Or is it just we really are only going to see him maybe to see out games or just cup competitions?
Yeah, I think it's going to be exactly that. I mean, he definitely suited that kind of game where MK aren't getting at us in the slightest, because we've seen in pre-season that Tikvic isn't too keen on defending, but a strength of his is when you get him on the ball, he does look like a decent ball player. He can certainly play it forward quickly. He's got good technique. He's got a good first touch. So, yeah, he was able to just play how he wanted to, really. And, yeah, I thought he did that well enough. I mean, there isn't too much to say about a 15-minute cameo, but I thought he looked the part.
Well, you say that, but another man who had a 15-minute cameo, Ramirez Espan, someone who's really, really impressed me in pre-season, especially in that Hibernian game. He really is sunny. If we can keep hold of him and gradually build his minutes up, I really like the look of this kid. He obviously needs to get he needs to sort his frame out and his physicality, but he really is someone that, if we do it correctly, and we could well see him feature quite a bit this season, because one of the things that Kleb said in the Three Counties radio interview was he wants a smaller squad compared to the 25 or however many it is you can register. And if there are injuries, then it's going to be the younger players that are going to come in and fill in for the players. So having someone like Espan, I really like the look of him, and I think last night was perfect to bring him on, Cam, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted him to come on a bit earlier, to be honest.
Yeah.
He looks very much like an in-run loser kind of player, where he'll sort of buzz about, asking for the ball, trying to play it forward, and he had a very positive approach to the game. Just every time he got it, he was already facing the opposition goal. He wanted to pass forwards, and yeah, he looked the part. He didn't look out of place in the slightest. Now, what I want to see is how does he do at championship level? Because with all due respect to him, that wasn't really a test last night. I reckon I could have come on and had a decent game. So I want to see what he can do at championship level. And with the state our midfield's in, we've only got 3 senior players in that central midfield. And I think that's going under the radar a lot. But if we don't bring anyone in, there's going to be plenty of minutes going around for him. So, yeah, it's really exciting to see what he can do.
Yeah, watch this space. He's going to be interesting, and maybe what other sort of academy players we see feature this season. I certainly hope we see Claridge feature. I'm surprised he wasn't in the squad last night, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
He played in the under-21s game against Fleetwood, I think, the day before. So, but yeah, very surprised that we didn't see him. But yeah, a 5-0 win for Watford in the first round of the Carabao Cup. People will probably watch this and think, guys, we beat MK Dons, chill out. That is not the point. 89 minutes on the clock, and we pressed and almost got through and scored a 6th. That is what I want my team to be like. I want my team to press, keep going, no matter what the score is. And especially in the Carabao Cup, so many people last night, I mean, I don't know whether the Sky deal's got something to do with it or whether it was low expectation. But I know they shut 2 sides of was it 2 sides of the ground? Or just yeah.
It was to make MK feel more at home.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw someone put that on Twitter. But it was far from a packed house. So a lot of people would have thought last night was the typical exit in the cup, and we lost not last season, the season before to MK Dons in this cup, and I think it was the same round as well. So through to round 2, is the draw tonight, Cam, or is it tomorrow?
The draw is tonight after, is it Leeds Middlesbrough? I believe it will be on Sky Sports Football, and we are ball number 21.
Excellent. You've done your homework. I haven't. I was going to say I've come unprepared. I don't know what ball number we are. Just quickly, anyone in particular that you're looking out for that you'd like? Or
well, I have got the list up here, and quite selfishly, I'll be back sort of in the Midlands at that point. So I'd like one of the more northern teams. We are still in the sort of regional split at this stage of the competition, but Walsall is one that's catching my eye. Birmingham City, another one. I'm sure you've got your eye on them.
Yeah.
But to be honest, there's a handful of lower league grounds in there that I've not done. I'm looking at Crawley. I'd quite like to do that. Leyton Orient's another one. Colchester United would be a bit of a trek, but I'd be well up for that. And Cheltenham Town, if they beat Plymouth tonight, that's one I would really like. But yeah, just something away. Although I'm fully aware we're going to get Cardiff at home.
Someone said that earlier. I think it was Rio Wolf said that on Twitter, saying who he wanted, who would be a good tie. And then it said reality, Swansea home. Because we only ever play Swansea at home in midweek. So when do the Premier League teams come in?
They're in it. They're in it. The European ones aren't, but the rest of them are.
Do you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here. Walsall, Birmingham, yeah, I would like them. They would be very nice. I also wouldn't turn my nose up at a little mid-trip down to Bournemouth.
Yeah, you know what?
Seaside.
You know what? That's actually a great shout. I've not done Bournemouth for a long time.
I've never done Bournemouth.
Never done it. The only time I went was when we won 3-0 there under Nigel Pearson.
Yes, I was in Birmingham watching it. Oh, well, I was in a pub watching it, and I had just as much fun, I can assure you. But yeah, Bournemouth. Yeah, Walsall, Birmingham, or Bournemouth, please. I'm a little bit gutted. It's still the north and south divide because I love a seaside trip, and there's some corkers up north, and Fleetwood would have been perfect. Blackpool would have been perfect. Lincoln got knocked out by Harrogate annoyingly, so that knocks it off. But we're saying all this, we know full well it's going to be a championship team at home. Norwich at home.
Norwich at home.
That's what it will be. So yeah, very, very disappointing. But before we go, well, we'll wrap it up there. I think we'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm speaking to Ben Rowley from the YYY Files, which is a Stoke City podcast. I think it's more to do with the Delilah song, which Stoke City have adopted. Just another little random piece of information which Ben brought to my attention on my stag do. I don't know if you've seen this, Cam, but Stoke have moved their away end.
I did spot that, yeah. Yeah, they're in the corner now, aren't they?
Yeah, that's going to be very weird. Granted, I haven't been since 2005. It was our sister's first game, and we won 3-0. It was 2005-06 season. So, granted, I haven't been since then, but that's going to be very weird when we go to Stoke. But yes,
that's another one we could draw, isn't it? Or are they in the north section?
Oh, I don't know. The north and south's a bit murky waters.
Yeah.
Birmingham are south, but Aston Villa, when they come in, will be north. So I think this could be very bad timing because a delivery man has just walked past. So my buzzer's probably going to go off. There we go. But yeah, thank you very, very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like on the video, hit subscribe, and drop a comment in as well. Don't forget to follow us on all the socials. As I say, I am back tomorrow. About 6 o'clock, I think we'll be going live. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed this one. Till next time, come on, you Horns.